You are a service-based business, so remember that you must provide top-tier service in order to stay active in the real estate industry. And I don't mean just as a transaction coordinator, but as a realtor, appraiser, lender, escrow officer, and even VAs and admin. We are all part of a greater goal that needs to function in unison and in a timely manner. Even when things don't go according to plan, you only have one or maybe many deals, timelines are thrown off with delays, close of escrow is moved up 2 weeks early, or sadly, cancellations. Are you capable of adjusting, pivoting, and operating in some or a lot of discomfort for the sake of getting this deal in the best shape as possible? Following through, even if you don't get paid? Are you able to recognize when someone is no longer a fit for your business? These are just a few questions that bring me to today's topic, which are the keys to avoid getting fired. You may or may not know that I've worked in the real estate industry since 2004, and my name is Lillian Hernandez, but you can call me Lilly like the flower. I am your resident care coordinator and host of this show, the Transaction Care Podcast. And I have seen and experienced my fair share of hiring, firing, layoffs, quits, more firing, and of course, longevity. I can only speak from my experience, but I do hope that these tips will create a desire to be better on a business and personal front to help your days have more ease, joy, and honestly, clarity, because real estate is no joke. A quick and friendly reminder before we jump into today's episode, please rate and review the show. It really goes a long way. And if you have not already joined my TC newsletter, then visit transactioncarepodcast.com, submit your name and email, and you're in. And while you're there, you might as well check out some past episodes of the show. Thank you so much in advance. Now let's jump into today's episode. Answer me this. Have you ever been fired? Or have you ever had to fire someone? And what were the reasons? What did you learn from that moment or those moments? And how are you carrying it into your business or your career today? As I mentioned earlier, I've definitely had my own personal experiences on being the person that has fired someone as well as the person being fired. And it's definitely not the best position to be in on either end, but it's a part of life, it's a part of work, it's a part of careers. And in this episode, I want to get into 5 tips to avoid getting fired. And these are not in any particular order. They're just here to help you take action, to learn from, and hopefully apply to your daily business practices and maybe even help someone else going through something similar. Tip 1, mastering organization and time management. I can't stress this enough. And again, this is me talking from a transaction coordinator's perspective, but I'm also a business owner, as well as a coach, as well as a human being. And as someone that errs on the side of organization, whether it comes to my home or my business, I can't stress enough how being organized and having good time management skills can take you so far in any industry, but in particularly real estate, because you are in charge, especially as a transaction coordinator, of not just being organized and managing your time effectively, but keeping track of deadlines, paperwork, communication with clients and agents. So having the right tools in place, to-do lists, project management softwares, TC management softwares, to help you stay on top of things so you're not only committing things to memory. You're utilizing the tools and the programs and softwares available to you to keep you on track and in a steady flow of productivity. And again, the work will speak for itself eventually. And as you grow and build, having organization and time management skills mastered will definitely benefit you in your favor. Number 2, attention to detail. Now, this plays definitely into mastering organization and time management skills, but attention to detail in real estate is so crucial. No matter what seat you're sitting in, figuratively, again, realtor, broker, transaction coordinator, lender, etc., etc., etc. If you have a part in a specific transaction, I think it's important to know at the very minimum, the basics of what every person does in that transaction, what their roles are, what their responsibilities are. So in the event something, a detail, a contract term, or maybe a date was missed, seems off, you're able to catch that and bring it to that person's attention. Like, hey, there was no commission put into the listing agreement. Please update it with XYZ form. Or please send an extension for the close of escrow since today's close of escrow, but we're not closing for another 2 weeks. It's very important to pay close attention to every detail in the transaction process, whether it involves you or not. It doesn't necessarily mean that you go stepping on people's toes or doing people's jobs for them, especially if you are a lender trying to do a TC's job or a TC trying to do a realtor's job. No, that's not what I'm saying. It's more so having a full understanding of how a transaction actually functions, how it operates, how it goes from contract to close, and making sure you're double checking documents, contracts, agreements to just ensure accuracy. Because one thing I've learned in this industry is that there are some realtors that will just dump everything on a transaction coordinator. And then the moment something goes wrong, all of the blame goes onto a TC. Things fall apart, deals fall out of contract. And then one of you, most likely the TC, is out of a job. And mistakes, again, can be very costly, whether it's on the buyer's end, the seller's end, if you're a transaction coordinator realtor, as I mentioned. And we don't want that to damage your reputation, your business, from any perspective or from any career standpoint. So accuracy is absolutely paramount in this real estate industry. But again, talking from a TC's point of view, I have learned that attention to detail is probably one of the most key skills you can obtain in order to get the project done properly. And before we get into the next tip, if you are a real estate professional, whether you're a realtor, broker, lender, appraiser, TC, let me know if you have some tips to avoid getting fired and how to stay in the industry and build longevity. Because again, I'm only sharing 5. I could probably list 100, but we don't have time for that today. And I don't want to take up too much of your time. So comment on this episode, email me, or even just share it on your social media. Create content based on this podcast. But I want to know what your tips are to avoiding getting fired. These are just 5 out of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. All right. So tip number 3, effective communication skills. I think I've talked about communication on this podcast many, many times. And communication is key, especially in real estate transactions. You'll need to communicate clearly and professionally with clients, agents, lenders, and of course, all of the other parties involved in the transaction. So for those that are coming into transaction coordination as introverts, this may not be the best position for you, because you're not just going to be sitting behind a laptop replying to emails all day. You might have to pick up the phone. You will actually have to pick up the phone. You might have to go into a Zoom meeting with people. There's not an entirely foolproof way for people to go through a transaction without communicating with anyone else involved. And there are realtors, and I've seen this, and this is to me a red flag. Let me know if you agree or disagree. But there are realtors that will say, I only check my email once a day. I will not respond to any emails outside of these hours, which is fine. But when you're the realtor and you're responsible for an entire transaction, you're representing a brokerage, the primary sell of a realtor is that you're available around the clock. And yes, I'm very big on boundaries, but there's a difference between don't talk to me and I will be away from my desk from this time to this time. And for the realtors out there that think your job is only to go get clients and to not have to manage any other parties or paperwork involved, in my opinion, again, I personally don't think that's the best way of going about running your business. But again, if you are on the receiving end of someone like this, it's up to you to effectively communicate to them that you simply don't agree with this. And is there a healthy compromise for not just you and this other person, but for the greater good of this transaction. And on the flip side of those that may seem or be neglectful in the transactions and communicating with them to stay on top of things, you as the real estate professional should also respond to emails and calls promptly, on time, as soon as possible. Of course, you're not going to be able to respond to everything the second it arrives in your inbox, but making ample time, again, going back to being organized and having good time management within the hour, end of day at the very, worst case scenario, but a simple received, thank you, got it, working on it goes a long way. And making sure that all parties involved are informed of any progress or changes that may be occurring throughout the transaction, because I have been a part of transactions where they were not CCing me, and I find out later that the whole transaction went another direction, and I'm thinking, what is going on? And no one is updating me. So a part of being a real estate professional, and if you are a transaction coordinator, is definitely, which I'll get into on the 5th step, is being proactive. But again, we'll get there in just a moment. But tip number 4, and also very, very important, this probably could have been number 1 if I was doing this in any particular order, but staying updated on regulations and procedures. I cannot stress enough how important this is, because there have been so many transactions where I've received disclosures that were so outdated that we had to redo the whole packet. I had to redo the whole packet on their behalf because they were using forms from 10 years ago. And here in California, the disclosures, not all of them, but most, are updated every 6 months. And that's not counting the laws and rules that change on the spot. For instance, right now we're going through a big commission debacle. So every brokerage, the state, the cities and county boards are all working to figure this out. So you want to stay on top of this. You want to know and understand real estate laws, regulations, procedures. And again, it varies by city to city, county to county, state to state. If you work in Los Angeles County and are trying to do a transaction here in San Francisco, not just the county, but the actual city, it's very different. No 2 transactions will ever be the same either. So staying informed about any updates or changes in regulations that may affect your work is crucial. And some ways to stay on top of this is to sign up for newsletters, email alerts, following these boards and on social media, attending trainings, workshops, seminars, just to stay updated and to ensure compliance with laws and regulations are up to date. Because again, as a real estate professional, and especially as a transaction coordinator, it is a big part of your job to make sure you are using the most current disclosures available. Because if you're using outdated forms, this can change the trajectory of the entire transaction. It can create delays, it can create cancellations. There are just a lot of consequences to not using the most current updated forms. So make sure you are staying on top of all of this. Ask a colleague, ask your broker directly. What is the latest? What newsletters, email list should I join? What meetings does the brokerage have that I can attend? And this brings me to my next tip on being proactive and anticipating needs. Because if you're using outdated forms and you're not quite sure how to get them, always go to the source. If you feel as a real estate professional, a TC, whatever position or career you have, take initiative in your role, anticipate the needs of your clients and agents, and proactively address any issue or concerns that may arise during the transaction process. By being proactive and demonstrating your value, you'll actually increase your chances of success and job security. So this could include getting to know the work styles of how each person on your team works. If you're someone that works with multiple realtors, multiple teams, different escrow officers, get to know their style, their workflow. Call them if you need to. Join their office meetings, their weekly team meetings if you need to understand how they operate. I have one team that as soon as disclosures are signed, they want me to double check with them before I just send them to the listing agent Or I have another realtor that I actually had to let go recently that didn't want to do anything. And some things came down to the wire, and if I wasn't proactive, it wouldn't have gotten done. But from a TC's point of view, TC's perspective, we are part of a greater team. We're not the only ones responsible for showing up, for communicating, for taking initiative, for knowing the rules and regulations, or for effective communication skills, time management, being organized. Yes, it helps, and it will definitely make you look better as a service, as a business, as an employee in this very demanding, fast-paced, volatile industry that is real estate. So if you need to take time today to reassess your business, to reassess your skills, to get reorganized, to take a communications class, to read up on some regulations and procedures, or check in with your team. Hey, are there areas where I need to improve? Do you want me to be more proactive here? Do you want me to do less of this, more of that? Then do it. At the time of this recording, it's about mid-May 2024. I don't know why I almost forgot the year, but it is mid-May 2024. And this is a good time to check in with yourself, with your business. I talked about this on my social media. How are you doing? Are you still comfortable and okay with the businesses and practices that you have in place currently? Or do you need to take some time, sacrifice a couple evenings, weekends to rebuild, to reassess, to audit yourself, to audit your business, to audit those around you, to cut the excess, to add, fill in the gaps, start new projects, end old projects? This is a good time to take these 5 tips, as well as anything else you've been needing to work on personally, on a business level, and start taking action today. Honestly, future you will thank you. I'm talking to myself also. So don't feel like you're alone in this whole process. This year is flying by, and the older I get, every year goes faster and faster and faster. So I'm in a mental state of doing my best to slow down time, but also making sure that the work that I'm still doing, the people I'm working with in collaboration, whether it's as a TC, as a coach, as a content creator, that I'm still in a line with these people, and that my why is up to date. My target audience is still being targeted. That this is a career I still actively want to pursue. I hope you found these topics and these tips to be helpful in your day-to-day. Again, I'm here to help. Feel free to reach out. Visit transactioncare.com to learn about myself, my services, the show. And if you want to discuss these topics in further, or anything related to real estate, business, mindset, you can even explore one-on-one coaching options with myself. Schedule a discovery call with me right away because spots are filling up. Again, you can go to transactioncare.com. All of the information will be there, as well as in the description of this episode. We have more power than I think we give ourselves credit for, but it's up to us to go seek that power, to embrace that power, and to let that power shine. Take the skills you have, refine them, build them, mend them, audit them, whatever that you need to do in order to succeed. Know what your definition of success is and start applying it today. Let's keep encouraging each other, uplifting each other, and I know we can all do great things and have fun along the way. So thank you for listening. A friendly reminder to subscribe to the Transaction Care YouTube channel. If you want to interact with me more on there, I do lives, I post videos, vlogs, as well as this podcast on there. So thank you, first of all, to the 1,040 plus subscribers I have. We are growing each day, and I'm so grateful. So again, go subscribe to the Transaction Care YouTube channel. And final reminder, if you haven't already, please leave a review for the show. It really means the world to me, and it goes a long way towards building community and reach. And again, I appreciate each and every one of you. My TC community truly is the best on the planet. Okay? And stay tuned. More to come. Share this episode with a friend or many, and go to transactioncare.com. But until the next episode, I'm giving you the keys. There are no gatekeepers here. Care for yourself. Care for your wealth. Your time is worth it. Let's coordinate. Talk soon.